Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. So I was thinking about what could I make for a video today, and this kind of memory came back of how a lot of people took issue with the fact that in season 8, episode 3, The Long Night, it was Arya who defeated the Night King instead of Jon Snow, even though Jon Snow's character arc had suggested that he would fight the Night King. And what I kind of realized is actually there's a lot of symbolism in Arya defeating the Night King. There also would have been a lot of symbolism in Jon defeating the Night King. And in this video, I'm going to discuss the different symbolic outcomes that would have occurred had one character defeated the Night King over the other. So if we look at the character of Jon Snow, we can kind of realize he represents life in a lot of ways. He saves the wildlings from certain death at the hands of the undead by bringing them across the wall. And he also, of course, is resurrected from the dead, which is a very symbolic representation of the triumphs of life over death. And another kind of way that Jon Snow represents life is the fact that he's very in tune with nature, which is very related to his religion of the old gods. He goes to the weirwood trees, an object of nature, and he has his direwolf ghost, a being of nature. Now, if we compare him to Arya, we see that Arya is a very different character. What's interesting is even though there's that line in the show where Syrio Fortell tells Arya, "What do we say to death?" and the answer is "not today," despite having that initial hesitancy, being frightened of death, she actually ends up becoming an embodiment of death. She wants to take vengeance on all those who have wronged her and kill them. She brings death to people. And what's interesting is that the Night King represents death just like Arya. He leads an army of the undead. He has no expression too, which is a symbol of being dead, you know. There's no emotion, no expression, no life force, that's all gone. And what's very interesting is had Jon defeated the Night King, that would be then a triumph of life over death, which is an idea you see in a lot of great traditions. So for example, in Christianity, Christ is risen from the dead, which is a triumph of life over death. And of course, the idea of going to heaven is also a triumph of life over death. What's interesting is Arya defeating the Night King represents another symbolic idea, which is death devours itself. And you can see this in Ragnarok in Norse mythology. This event brings death to everything, but then ultimately when there's nothing left, Ragnarok has to come to an end. It has to die, and when it's gone, a new world can start to form. So that's also a triumph of life over death as well. Arya killing the Night King represents this idea where death is not immune to being destroyed by death. If you think about it, had the Night King won, what would have happened? There would have been all these undead people. Their bodies are just going to start to break down even more over time, and then they're all going to be gone. So even if they win, they lose. But the Night King's rule ends much sooner because another embodiment of death destroys death. The Night King reaps what he sows. He's destroyed by his own very essence. So in having Arya defeat the Night King, a very different message is put forth. Even if life and hope and all these things fail, evil actually cannot prevail, death cannot prevail, because it's not capable of sustaining itself. And of course, like I said earlier, had Jon won, it would have put forth that kind of idea that life is actually more powerful than death and it'll always triumph in the end. But both these ideas are actually related because, of course, if death fails, not even because of life, but it just fails of its own accord, then life can return. So I'm curious if these ideas have kind of changed how you viewed this episode, and if maybe you're now more open to the idea of Arya defeating the Night King. If you take issue with that still, please let me know in the comments. If you actually find this interpretation very interesting, also please let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video to the end. That helps with the algorithm immensely. Same with people who like this video and subscribe to this channel. That also helps a lot. So thank all of you who are watching this channel in the very early stages.